Hello, you are welcome to another class. My name is Abimbola Temitope, and today we'll be talking about a topic called quadratic equation. And when we say quadratic equation is an equation where the highest power or the highest index of the variable is 2. Again, is an equation where the highest power or the highest index of the variable is 2. That means we have something like this: ax squared, this is the format of quadratic equation, ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. And looking at these first variables here, we have a as the coefficient of x squared. And looking at this x, what it carries is 2. That is power 2, which is the highest variables here. So the highest index or the highest power of the variables is 2. So that means that if you have 3 here, it is not a quadratic equation. If you have 4 here, it is not a quadratic equation. So quadratic equation is identified by the highest power or the highest index of the variables. So looking at this, you are going to see that a is a coefficient of x squared, b is a coefficient of x, and c is a constant. Now, for example, assuming we have 2x squared plus 5x plus 6 is equal to 0. This is a quadratic equation. How do I know? Looking at the what? The highest variables here, the highest index of the variables here is 2. So you can see it's not more than 2. That means I can also have something like this: 2 equal to 11. This is also quadratic equation. How do I know that? Because looking at this now, you are going to see that the highest power or the highest index here is 2. All right. Now, let's talk about the method of solving quadratic equation. Method of solving quadratic equation. Number 1, we call it the general method, which is also called factorization method. And the second method is what we call completing the square method. And the third method, we call it the quadratic formula. Quadratic formula method, which many people call almighty formula. Why do we call it almighty formula? The reason being that what this one cannot solve, what the factorization method cannot solve, the almighty formula can solve it. And another one, we have what we call the graphical method. The graphical method. All right. Now today, we'll be talking about the factorization method. Now, factorization method. Now, for example, assuming you are given x squared minus 5x plus 6 is equal to 0. How do we solve this? Now, looking at the first variables here, the coefficient of the first variables here is what? 1. The coefficient of the second variable here is what? Is 5. Minus 5. Minus 5. And the constant is plus 6. What are you going to do now? You will look for two numbers. You will look for two numbers that when you add up, it's going to give you minus 5. And when you multiply, it's going to give you plus 6. Remember, when you add up, it's going to give you minus 5. This is the middle number. And when you multiply, it's going to give you the constant. Let's look at the number that will give us 6. when we multiply. Okay, we have 6 times 1, we have 3 times 2, or these two will give you 6 and we give you 6. And remember, we are looking for what? Plus 6. That is what we are looking for. Two of them give us plus 6. But when we sum it up, will it give us minus 5? Once we sum it up, let's check it. Let's check. If we have 6 minus 1, that one will give us 5, not minus 5. If we have minus 6 plus 1, it's going to give us what? Minus 5. But will it give us plus 6? I'm talking about this multiplication form. Now, 6 minus 1 is 5. But what about 6 times minus 1? It will not give us plus 6. Minus 6 times plus 1, it will not give us plus 6. So let's use 3. 3 times 2. Let's say minus 3 plus 2. Minus 3 plus 2 is going to give us what? It will give us, that is minus 6. But what we are having here is plus 6. And if we say minus 3 times minus 2, let's check this one. Minus 3 times minus 2, minus cancel minus, is going to give us 6. And if we say minus 3 minus 2, what will it give us? You are owing 3 naira and you are owing another 2 naira. That one will give us what? Minus 5. That means that the two variables that we are going to put here is minus 3 minus 2. Again, let me repeat this. What I'm saying in the nutshell is that you will look for two numbers that when you multiply is going to give you plus 6. And plus 6 when you multiply. And when you sum it up, it's going to give you minus 5. And these are the what? The multiples of 6, which is 3 times 2 and 6 times 1. And if you look at what we are looking for up here, we want to sum up. That means that if you have minus 3 plus minus 2, what will it give us? Minus 3 plus minus 2. This one we say plus times minus is what? Minus. So we have minus 3 minus 2 giving us what? Minus 5. And when we say minus 3 times minus 2, what will it give us? Minus cancel minus. 3 times 2 is what? Is 6. So the two variables we are using now is minus 3 minus 2. Minus 3 minus 2. Okay, let's use that. So we now have x squared minus 3. Don't forget the what? The variables we have here. Minus 3x minus 2x, then plus 6. If you look at it, this is the only thing we change. Minus 5 is the only coefficient that is changed here. And do you know I can turn this back to this one? Minus 3x minus 2x will give me what? Minus 5x. So what do I do now? I have to factorize. So let me factorize. What is common here? X can go here, x can go here. You say x, that is bracket open, 1x cancel 1x, it remains x. Then minus x cancel x, what remains? 3. Then minus, what is common here? 2 can go here, 2 can go here, 2 brackets. What do we have here? We have x. Then you're not going to, that last number, remember please, multiply the what? The external operation, then with the what? With the internal operation. Minus times plus is what? Is minus. How many 2 can we see in 6? That is 3 is equal to 0. You must make sure that the two brackets are tantamount in nature. You must make sure that they are the same. Looking at this, minus 3, minus 3. So what do I do now? I have to take what is outside. I say x minus 2, bracket close. And what else? The second one is what? We have x minus 3. Out of these two, you just have to take 1 is equal to 0. Now, I have to take this one by one. X minus 2 is equal to 0. Or, then the second one is x minus 3 is equal to 0. Then let me open the bracket. I say x minus 2 is equal to 0. Or I have x minus 3 is equal to 0. Now, collecting the like times, I have x is equal to minus 2. Moving to the other side with 0 will give us plus 2. Or x, moving minus 3 to the other side, it will give us plus 3. Therefore, my x is plus 2 or plus 3. And that is the answer for the first one. All right, let's check another question. Remember, we're still working on factorization method. All right, looking at another question here. The question says, simplify. We have 2x squared minus 24x plus 40 is equal to 0. Now, looking at the coefficient of the first variable, you are going to see that it's more than 1. Can you see? So what can you do here? You what? You divide all through by this coefficient in order to make this one 1. Now let's try that. The question is, we have 2x squared minus 24x plus 40 is equal to 0. Now, in order to make the coefficient, if you check the first one, the coefficient of the first one is what? Is 1. So let's break this one two down. Now, we say divide all through by 2. Now, this one will now give us what? 2x squared all over 2 minus 24x all over 2 plus 40 all over 2 is equal to 0 all over 2. All through, remember. Now, 2 here, what do we have left? X squared minus 2 here, we have 12x plus 2 here 1, 2 here 20. We have 20 is equal to 0 divided by 2 is what? 0. You can see the coefficient of this one now is 1. So what do we do now? What do we do? We find two numbers. Again, two numbers that once you multiply is going to give you plus 20. The multiplication will give you plus 20, while the sum will give you minus 12. The sum will give you minus 12. So let's look for two numbers that if you sum it up is going to give you minus 12. And if you multiply, it's going to give you us plus 20. So let's try 10 and 2. 10 and 2. If you say 10 and 2, that means we have minus 10 times minus 2. You know, minus 10 times minus 2, minus cancel minus. 10 times 2 is what? 20. And if we say minus 10 plus minus 2, what is that? Plus times minus is what? Minus. Abi? Plus times minus is minus, giving us minus 10 minus 12 is minus 10 minus 12. Then what do we get now? Minus 10 minus 12 is minus 2 is what? Minus 12. So the two variables we are using now is minus 10 minus 2. You can see when we multiply minus 10 times minus 2, it gives us plus 20. And when we sum it up, you can see it gives us minus 12. Now, let's use the two variables that we get. Minus 10 minus 12. Okay, we have s squared minus 10. Don't forget the variables of this one, which is what? X. X minus 2x plus 20 is equal to 0. Now, looking at this now, what do we do? You know, I can turn this back to this by saying minus 10x minus 2x will give me what? Minus 12x. Now, what do? I factorize. Let me factorize. What is common here? X is common. So, how many x remain here? 1 is outside. 1x minus x cancel x. What remains is what? Is 10. Minus, what is common here is what? 2. 2 can go. 2 bracket. We have x is left. We have minus times plus. Don't forget this, please. Minus times plus is what? Is minus. How many 2 can we see in 20? 10 is equal to 0. Now, looking at this now, you are going to see that the two brackets are the same. You must make sure that the two brackets are the same. So the external variables, we have x minus 2, all bracket close, and the second one is what? You pick one out of the two because they are identical. You say x minus 10 then is equal to 0. Is equal to 0. Now, what do we do now? We now say, open the bracket, x minus 2 is equal to 0, or the second one, x minus 10 is equal to 0. Therefore, we have x is equal to, carry this one by collecting the like times to this 0 to give us plus 2, or x is equal to plus 10. Therefore, my x is equal to plus 2 or plus 10. And that is the second answer. That is the second answer. And that is what we call factorization method. Now, let me quickly make a touch on completing the square. Completing the square method. Completing the square method, there are some questions that if you try to use factorization method, it will not work. It will not work. So any equation, any quadratic equation that gives you problem like that, you either use completing the square method or formula method. Now let's try this question now. Let's try this. The question says, let's try that first question. We have x squared minus 5x plus 6 is equal to 0. The question now says, solve by using the completing the square method. You know, we have some questions like that they will specify what they want you to do. So what do we do here now? Say x squared minus 5x, carry the constant to the other side. It will give us minus 6. Now, what do you do now? You now take your what? The second variables, which is minus 5x. You'll find the what? The half of minus 5. You now say half 1 all over 2 times 1 all over 2 times 5. 1 all over 2 times 5 times, sorry, minus 5. Remember, this one will give us 1 times minus 5 is what? Minus 5 all over 2. Minus 5 all over 2. Now, what are you going to do now? You are not going to what? Square this minus 5 all over 2 to both sides. Remember, this is what we take, minus 5. I will find the half of the second variables. So when you are completing the square method, you will find the half of the second variables. So what do we do now? Squaring both sides. If you square both sides, this one is going to give us what? X squared minus 5x. If you square both sides, you will now add squaring both sides and add to both sides. And add to both sides. We square and we add to both sides too. So it's going to be what? Plus, what do we square? Minus 5 all over 2 all square is equal to, now what is the second one? The second one is what? Minus 6. Minus 6 plus, what do we have? That is minus 5 all over 2 all square. All square. Now let me clean this please. Now, what do we do now? We are going to check that left-hand side. Those one that carries variables of 2, we square them together. Like this, we say x squared. What is this one? Minus 5 all over 2. Then you what? You can see that this one 2 carries square. This one doesn't carry anything. We have made use of it. That is all raised to power 2. You take the first one, remember, and you what? That's variables that we square, and you can see is equal to, what do we have here? We have minus 6, then plus this one, minus 5 times minus 5. You know what we have there is minus 5 all over 2. Then we also have what? That is times minus 5 all over 2. That means in two places, that is what we have. So minus 5 times minus 5 is what? 25. All over 2 times 2 is what? Is 4. So what we have here is plus now. It will turn to plus, which is 25 all over 4. 25 all over 4. Then what next? We now say what? We have x minus 5 all over 2 all square is equal to, what is the LCM? You know this one is all over 1. What is the LCM? The LCM is what? Is 4. How many 1 can we say 4? 4. 4 times 6 is what? Minus 24. You know we have minus there. Then plus 4 in 4 is what? 1. 1 times 25 is what? 25. So what we have now is x minus 5 all over 2 all square is equal to minus 24 plus 25. That is what? 1 all over 4. Then what do we do now? We square root both sides in order to remove this what? This 2. Now we say square root both sides. If we square root both sides, it's going to be here like this. X minus 5 all over 2 all square is equal to the square root of 1 all over 4. So what do we have here? This one we cancel this. This we cancel this. Then we have what? We have x minus 5 all over 2. X minus 5 all over 2. That is what we have. Then next, if you look at this particular number, what is the square root of this? If you find this, square root of 1 all over 4 will give us what? 1 all over 2. You know the square root of 1 is 1. The square root of 4 is what? Is 2. But before that, remember, under completing the square method and formula method, you will always put for plus or what? Or minus. So this is plus or minus. What do we have? 1 all over 2. Now, you collect the like times by moving this minus 5 all over 2 to the other side. But please, before the plus or minus, not after. Is not going to be x is equal to, you know, this is plus. It's a change to, this is minus. It's a change to plus, giving us 5 all over 2. Then what do we have here? Plus or minus 1 all over 2. At the front, before the plus or minus, please take note. So what do we have? What do we now have? What do we have now? We now have x is equal to, you now take it one by one, 5 all over 2. What is the first sign? Plus 1 all over 2, or again 5 all over 2 minus 1 all over 2. What is the LCM here? The LCM here is 2. 2 into 2 is 1. 1 times 5, that is 5. Plus 2 into 2 is what? 1. 1 times 1, 1. Or the LCM is 2. 2 into 2 is what? 1. 1 times 5 is 5. Minus 2 into 2 is 1. 1 times 1 is 1. Then what do we have now? We now have x is equal to 5 plus 1 is what? 6 all over 2 or 4 all over 2. So what do we have left? We have 2 here 1, 2 here 3, or 2 here 1, 2 here 2. So therefore, my x is equal to 3 or minus 2. 3 or minus 2. Now, let me give you what you are going to do. And once you finish, please drop your answer at the comment section. Now, looking at this, I want you to solve this one. We have solved quadratically. We have x squared minus 2x minus 5. That is the first one. The second one, we have 3x plus 5x plus 5 is equal to 0. Now, you can use any method. Use any method. See that, you know, I told you, if you remember, that some will not work. If you try to use factorization method, it will not work. So you have to use completing the square method or using almighty formula method. Okay, I believe you understand what we did today. And looking at it, you can see it's very simple. Most students always have problem in that completing the square method, and it's not something that is that hard. So, okay, now we have square roots both sides. Looking at this place, please, you have to be very, very careful here. Be very, very careful here. You square both sides. You can see what we did. We cancel this, we cancel that, and we have 1 all over 4. 1 all over 4, in which the square root is 1 all over 2. Remember, don't forget to put plus or what? Or minus to this question. Do you know we can use completing the square method for that second one too? If you look at it, that second one, someone is asking if we can solve that second one too. We can solve it. Yes, we can solve. In fact, it's going to be straightforward. That second question, which is 2x squared minus 24x plus 40 is equal to 0. First and foremost, divide all through by 2. So we have, this is 2x squared over 2, 2x over 2 over 2 minus 24x over 2 plus 40 over 2 is equal to 0. 2 cancel 2, x squared minus, what do we have? We have 2x plus, that is 20, is equal to 0. Now looking at this, what do we do now? We move the constant to the other side, to the right hand side, minus 20. Getting minus 20 now, you find the half of this one, 1 over 2 times, what is the half of minus 6, giving us minus 6. Now you square this one, squaring both sides.